Welcome to Awakening Mindfulness at Work, a conversation that matters. I'm Pierre Khawand.
And I'm Sarah Killeen. We are bringing to you conversations and practices to cultivate presence, calm, and balance in the workplace. Hello, Pierre. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, today I'd like us to talk about something that we are asked very often. And the question is, how do I stay mindful throughout the day? How do I take the mindfulness practice off the cushion or the seat or, whatever I'm practicing on? I can do 5 minutes a day or 10 or 15, maybe not every day, but some days. And I notice the benefits. And then there's all those days that are so busy and I'm just running everywhere and I don't have the time. And I realize at the end of the day that I didn't do any mindfulness. How can I stay mindful throughout the day, no matter how fast the day is, no matter how hectic the day is? How can I stay mindful throughout my day? So I'd love to talk about that with you today. Before I go into it, wondering what your first thoughts are on the topic.
Yeah, I think such a practical and useful topic to explore and brainstorm on. And like you said, this is a question and a topic that comes up often in conversations with various, mindfulness friends. So all ready for it, Sarah.
Great. And it'll be a little bit of a brainstorming, I think. I wrote down a lot of different points and ideas and maybe tips. But we'll see how we'll see how we connect the dots and how we build on these. But maybe the first thing I would say is that mindfulness is not only a meditation practice. And this builds us wonderfully on the one of the last episodes we recorded about mindfulness being made easier. We talked about the meditation, the practice, and more. So mindfulness is also, it's a way of doing things, right? It's a quality of presence. We talked about that. It's a quality of presence we bring to our daily activities. We can do mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful loving, mindful texting, mindful working, mindful listening. And there's a lot of different vehicles we can find for mindfulness. So whether we do the practice on a certain day, the formal sitting practice or not, there are all those opportunities throughout the day to choose mindfulness over maybe unconscious, a way of doing something. We can create space and time for mindfulness in all the little transitions we have, maybe from one meeting to the next, or when we get in the car, when we boil the kettle for a cup of tea, or 2 minutes when our alarm rings. So can we create those little pauses, little gaps in a busy work day, creating that space and that time for being mindful and befriending um, maybe the discomfort it brings, right? When we are feeling stressed and we are really busy, it can be extremely uncomfortable to slow down and pause, even if it's just a few breaths, right? Befriending that silence and that stillness and that discomfort is part of the mindfulness practice. It's really part of the mindfulness practice. And we'll speak about different ways to help us do that, whether it's going to nature, being off screens for a while, that those are a few wonderful resources to help us tap into mindfulness. But before we go further, what do you think?
Um, I think let's throw some ideas,
Okay, great.
maybe from our experiences and also the experiences of, we have so many conversations and we do so many activities with our participants and our communities. So yeah,
Great.
ideas.
So I think the first idea, it's maybe more of a reflection, is this remembering practice of remembering, right? When we remember to be mindful, because we might not have been mindful until we remembered, that's wonderful. That is mindfulness, right? Remembering, being aware that we were not mindful, that is being mindful. And there's something with the reward system as well, right? If we're feeling stressed and then suddenly we remember to be mindful for a little bit, we take time to ground, to recenter, even just 1 minute of, deep breathing, of just being aware, we feel better afterwards. So we will remember faster the next time, right? We're strengthening that neural pathway. So remembering, remembering, remembering. And if we can't be aware in the moment, we can also do it retroactively, right? Retro. So at the end of the day, maybe when we look back at the day and realize that we were not mindful at all, even just going through that exercise and noticing the moments when we are not mindful and how we might be more mindful in a similar activity in the future, that counts. That really counts.
Mhm.
That's the
So about remembering, so sometimes remembering may come by itself, like, oh, where was I? What am I doing? And that's a mindful moment. That's a wonderful moment when we remember. And just a quick little deviation here, but something important. Sometimes it's easy when we remember to kind of be harsh on ourselves, like, oh no, you weren't mindful for the last 20 minutes or whatever. And this is where choosing, this is a choice, choosing to take it more into the positive aspect of remembering. I remembered, I'm aware now. So choosing that, as opposed to choosing what the mind, what the trained conditioned mind tries to tell us, which is, oh no, you weren't aware for the last 20 minutes. So choosing where we go with that, and choosing the appreciation that right now in this moment I'm aware. That's a important habit to get into. But then what came to my mind is, what cues can we have to help us remember more often? Like, I'm thinking of simple things like having a couple post-it notes around your desk that says remember, or having, I heard this, I don't know where I heard this, but some people have some tangible something, like maybe a little stone in their pocket, and every time they reach their pocket, or every time they feel that there is that stone, that's a cue. Oh, remember, I'm here, I'm present, what am I doing? Yeah, so journaling, we talked with Dr. Fisher about mindful journaling. So those our listeners who have not heard that episode, I think it may have been the courage episode or the wisdom episode. So mindful journaling can be a great way to strengthen our ability to remember. And like you said, Sarah, it could be at the end of the day for just a couple of minutes, like what happened today. And that little bit of stopping and reflecting can start to plant those seeds for remembering more often. Yeah.
Yeah, these are great. These are great points. I think there's a few more we can add there around setting intentions as well. Right? The importance of intention setting. If at the start of the day, we set an intention to be mindful and to remember, even if it doesn't work as planned, setting that intention is planting the seed. The
Mhm.
more, the more intentions we set, the more they are going to add up, right? And the seed is going to grow. um,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
intention setting and the journaling practice as well can be really helpful to think about non-negotiables, right? So mindful non-negotiables. So rather than just doing the routine we've always been doing, maybe asking ourselves, what are my daily mindfulness non-negotiables. It could be 5 minutes of mindfulness of breath while the water is boiling in the kettle. It could be a 2-minute body scan in the shower. What would be those daily mindfulness non-negotiables? And then um and then being also really kind with ourselves when it doesn't work, because like you're saying, there's seasons of life. It will be a lot easier to be mindful in some seasons than others. Thinking about a parent with a newborn baby might be a lot more challenging than being mindful on a 1 year sabbatical on an island. Right? So different seasons in life. and mindfulness will look different in each season. And
Yeah.
one of the first, I think one of the first step um, thought that I give to people who, and that we teach to people who have trouble being present, have trouble being mindful because they are really busy, they are really, in their heads. Is this coming back to the body? So mindfulness of the body being foundational. The body is always here. We can always come back to the body, and this
Mhm.
practice of centralizing ourselves, right, getting back into our senses, getting ourselves out of our mind and into the body again and again and again.
Yes. So this going back to the senses reminds me of a practice we do sometimes in the mindfulness workshops, which is using the five senses in just a minute or two to help us come back to reality, because our mind sometimes can live in a different world, create its own reality, and we disconnect from what's really happening here around us. So using the five senses, starting with the vision and just going around and looking around and trying to observe what's around us, and then going into the hearing. What are we hearing? Just being curious, open, without judging it, and on and on. And then maybe ending with the touch, hands together, just noticing the touch. So you have just a simple, this is a great one for everyone to kind of try out and keep in mind. And then the other thought that came up, during, and now I'm bringing it more to the workday. During the workday, there are so many things that happen and that we could use as anchors for us to remember and to have a moment of mindfulness. Like how many of us go to meetings? Everybody goes to meetings. So you could use the beginning of a meeting before you get into the meeting. That's an opportunity to have a minute of being mindful and reminding yourself of, being present. Taking one example, one thing we actually recommend in the workshops is just have this small ritual before a meeting. Take a 3 slow and deep breath, and then just make an intention how you want to show up in this meeting. That can take just a minute, and it's you don't have to work hard to remember this, because every meeting you go is an indication that you could use it as, oh, it is a meeting. Okay, let me do my
Mm.
slowing down, just 3 slow and deep breath, and then an intention or whatever you want it to be, but using things that are already happening as the cue to remember to incorporate a tiny bit of something that brings us back to being aware and present.
It's a great example of habit stacking and pairing the mindfulness, the remembering to be mindful with something we don't need to remember because we're doing it anyways. So that's really a great tip. And I think something else, that would be good talking about as well is mindfulness is not just, it's not just about that practice, and it's not just about, how aware we are and how present we are. It's also about what we turn it into, right? Mindfulness brings us to a place where we ask ourselves those questions. What kind of world are we creating? What kind of world am I creating? What kind of energy do I want to add to this world? And that is a way, it's just a little example to show that mindfulness and mindfulness practice and being mindful doesn't always look like sitting and focusing on the breath, right? Mindfulness practice and mindfulness can be very active. It can look like asking those difficult questions and then going out and doing it mindfully. Sometimes there's this, preconception that mindfulness is just sitting in a cave and not thinking anything and not doing anything. Mindfulness in action is one of the most wonderful forces. Right? It's a force. Again, it's a force with so much heart in it, heart and presence, and conviction, and wanting, wanting for mindfulness to spread in the world. And it's a wonderful force in action. um, so yes, mindfulness
Yeah.
also shows up in that way. That's also being mindful.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is taking the journey to, to a really impactful direction. So
Mm.
it's really about thinking, reflecting on the impact we're having, the difference we want to make, and making that part of
Mm.
this journey.
And in the workplace, I would
Mhm,
just in the workplace,
yeah.
that would be asking yourself, what would a mindful colleague, be like?
Mm,
What does it mean
mhm.
to be a mindful colleague? How can I show up mindfully in the workplace? What does that look like?
Yeah,
And that kind of questions. Same with,
yeah.
parenting, same with, I mean, in all areas of life and at work, is what does mindfulness look like in action? And then doing that. And that's the practice as well.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So, so let's talk about back to also to work.
Mhm.
Like we're doing a task. Of course, we can do the task the way we always do it, which is just do it without being aware we're doing it. Can we do the same task more mindfully? And what could that look like? Um, so when I think about this, I think I think about it that mindfulness starts before we even start to do the task by taking a moment to reflect, is this the task I want to do right now? And is it important? Is it something that matters? And making the intention that that's what I want to do, as opposed to taking on tasks randomly just because they show up, and not having that moment of being aware of, I am about to put effort in this task, so I want to make sure I choose something that matters. And maybe sometimes I don't have a choice. So in that case, how can I work with this and still bring to it some more awareness, instead of doing it with, with all the triggers kind of firing in the back. So can I say, yeah, I'm aware this is a task that maybe I don't like, and maybe I'm having certain resistance, and then treat that with kindness, and then move into, okay, let me now bring my attention, switch channels, and bring my attention back to the task. So yeah, I'm just trying to see, can we really bring that to the things that we do, the core
Mm.
of the work that we do, and how would that look like? Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre.